Hi, I'm Mika Boorem. I am talking with Elias today about Hollywood.CON, a film that I wrote, directed, and starred in. You can find it on Amazon.
Mika, welcome to the cave.
Thank you. I feel welcome.
What's how are you enjoying this beautiful day? Well,
It's
first of all,
nice.
is it beautiful where you're at?
I'm currently in California, and it is living up to the sunny California thing. Today, it has not recently. It's been cold recently, and by cold I mean about 60 degrees. But finally, we're up into that nice hot weather that I like. I like that. I like
Yeah,
70 and above.
there
80s
you
is
go.
good for me.
So yeah, so the listeners and the viewers, they've seen you growing up in TV and movies. Some of the projects you've done was like Riding with the Cars with Boys, Blue Crush, Dawson's Creek, The Patriot. Now, directorial debut. You've had an exciting career.
Thank you so much. Yeah, child labor. I started at 7, which
Wow.
was pretty awesome, and then went on and I've done over 40 different movies and television shows, and then more recently thought that I would progress beyond like the short films that I had directed and do
Mm,
this directorial debut, which is a fun, quirky, independent movie that's comedic, adventurous, and I wrote it, directed,
wow.
starred in it, cast it, produced it.
Yeah, I can't wait till we dive into that. Yeah, that's gonna be. I got some questions for you on that. But you said you started at 7 years old.
I did. I
Wow.
started at 7, and it was fun. The first movie I did was this Robert Redford movie. It was produced by him called Education of Little Tree, and we filmed in Montreal. And it was the fall, and there were beautiful, orange leaves everywhere. They gave me some of those little maple candies, and they had the authentic sets built, which were so cool. Like, because it was a period piece that took place in the 1920s, and then I was in a toe sack dress, and it was just an awesome, awesome experience. And so that kind of kicked me off into wanting to continue on with acting. And then I grew up, on all these different sets, living in Hawaii or China or Canada or wherever else on these film sets, and traveling and working through, pretty much nonstop through
Uh,
the through
how-
the through my childhood years.
So, like at 7 years old, like how did you decide like this is like what you wanted to get into?
It was one of those things. I did like some I don't I think it's probably more of like a parental decision.
Okay.
But I loved it. Like I was saying, I had that experience on the set for that movie Education of Little Tree, and I fell in love with it. Like the whole fantasy aspect of it, exploring history, the immersive experience, like all of that, was super super
Yeah.
enjoyable to me. And then yeah, I kind of just like progressively rolled along from there. And yeah, so now it's just, it's part of the DNA. It's locked in.
All right. Well, so like while you were young and you're working on some of these projects, were you still like doing acting lessons on the side to get better in the craft?
Yeah, some of it, some of the
Yeah.
acting lessons and stuff. You know, Mostly just trying to absorb as much as possible on set.
Mm,
I mean, when you're working with some of these really great actors, like, if you can just sit on set and watch them too, I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I'm not in this scene, but Anthony Hopkins is in this
right.
scene. Like, can I sit on the corner and just like watch him, And most
So,
of the time people are
like, yeah.
nice and like, yeah. I'm like, all right, I'm not in this scene, but Morgan Freeman is. Can I sit here and watch him? I think one of the people, and like one of the things that I remember that's so funny with watching actors on set is, so I did The Patriot with Mel Gibson,
Yeah.
and Mel Gibson, I'll never forget this. In The Patriot, they do a lot of different scenes in slow motion because it makes it's like the war stuff. The
Right.
Patriot about the Revolutionary War, and so like to make it dramatic and everything, they do these scenes in slow motion. And I remember him coming up to the director on that, Roland Emmerich, who Roland's awesome. Like Roland did like Independence Day and Contagion and anyway, and he was like, and we had Caleb Deschanel on that too as a cinematographer, who's like really, really awesome DP. But he was like, I'll do my own slow motion. And I was like, wait, what? Yeah, he was like, I'll do my own slow motion. He's like, because otherwise they do it in camera. He's like, I don't need to do it in camera, I'll do my own. And the way he explained it to the director was that, if you do slow motion, you're like moving through, it's also slow motion with your face, with the amount of reactions that you can get in there. And so like his thing was that he could move slow motion, but like go through like a whole nother series of facial emotions while he was moving slow motion. So he was just like moving. I was like, all right. And I saw him, just like shoot. I was like, okay, so if I want to be a really good, solid actor, you need to go home and get in front of the mirror and do some slow motion.
And record yourself, right? At the same time.
Yeah, you got to record yourself. Make sure that you're hitting all those beats, the emotional beats, the slow motion beats. Yeah, it's funny watching some of those bigger actors on set. It's, it's cool. It's really cool.
So
Hugh Laurie was another interesting one to watch on set too. He was the lead guy on that House TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, when you watch the show, the way that he speaks comes off so eloquently that you would never, I don't know, it doesn't even seem like he's rolling through that much dialogue. But when you're looking at the actual scripts for the show House, oh my gosh, his dialogue is like 1 page long, 2 pages long. And it's, the medical terms, the technical terms. And he also is speaking with an American accent on the show. So I'm just like, man, guy's like, I'm like, this guy's a genius. What's going on here? And those shows too. Yeah, it's like a 12-hour day, 10, 12-hour day, sometimes 14-hour day show. So I'm like, when does this man have time to go home and memorize this stuff? Like,
yeah, I give you guys a lot of credit. I don't know how you could do it with all like you mentioned, the long scripts and like you said, the dialogue, even like some of those medical words. Like I can't pronounce half those words.
Right, get it there. That was the cool thing about the show House is they try to make all the weird sicknesses and stuff on there. They try to make them as realistic as possible. So like the writers are big into researching and like pulling like random stuff. So if you're a hypochondriac, it's not a good show to watch.
Or you mean like when you're not feeling well, you go on Google just to start Googling something, right?
Yeah, exactly. Google's like, oh, that headache. Yeah, it looks like you're gonna die tomorrow.
So
like Dr. Google's the worst.
Right. So how did you decide, like, okay, like you've done the acting, but you still act, but at the same time, you want to start directing, you want to start writing, casting. What made you decide to get into that part?
I think directing is a natural progression from acting because acting is, if you have a whole puzzle, acting is like a smaller puzzle piece. And so yeah, I think it's like a natural progression because the longer that you're, acting and stuff, you're like, oh, like that would be a great film, or oh, this person's story is so interesting. And so I think the idea of like tossing around developing projects, starts to become, more and more of a conversation. And with the directing, like you're making a lot of decisions. It's a lot more responsibility, which is cool. And it's a lot more hours because like as an actor, sometimes you just show up and you do one scene for the day, or you show up and you've only got like 2 scenes. I mean, sometimes if you're a lead, you're in all of it, but the director is really there, from first scene in the morning till first scene at night. And then sometimes they go home and even watch like the footage that was shot to make sure that like nothing needs to be reshot. And like, so it's a lot more it's a lot more labor intensive in that way. But like for this project, I just thought it would be so fun to, move in that direction. And then Hollywood.CON specifically is like quirky and wacky. And so we had a really great time with it. Since my background is in acting, I was like, I want to do a project that has a lot of awesome actors in it and have like the experience and the collaboration of working with them. So I specifically like reached out to friends that I had worked with in the past on other films.
Yeah.
And so got all these like really great working actors. And they were pumped to come on and support for my directorial debut. They were, but I also lured them over because I was like, all right, like what do you get to, like, what don't you get to play? What do you typecast as? And so Tom Arnold's in this. Tom Arnold plays LJ, the drug cartel, the drug lord down in Mexico. So so he was all excited to do that. And which is so funny because he's got a new show out right now. It's a docuseries on Discovery Plus that his sister's on, and she's the meth queen of Iowa. So it's like the two of them are taking over all the Americas with their drug kingdom. But yeah, so we got like him on there. My buddy Devin. Devin's been in a ton of stuff. Devin Rattray. And he always plays kind of like more like nice guy, whatever. So in this, he plays like mover, shaker, producer who's like just trying to hustle and like push stuff through. Cody Cash is in this. He was in Desperate Housewives for years. He usually plays a psycho killer. This one, he's Marvin Lovejoy, singing, dancing.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah. So, it was fun like with that stuff because I'm like, all right, like, let's collaborate and like put a good story arc together for you.
So how did you get the idea to first of all, like how long did it get you to write the script, and how did you get the idea for the script?
So the movie, it's about two production companies in a race to make the next big Mayan movie. And then everyone's trying to sell each other out, one up each other and network and all of that. And so they say, write what you know. So for the whole Hollywood, like name dropping, networking, selling people out, I was like, oh yeah, like I've seen a lot of that over the years, growing up on set and in the industry. So that's the Hollywood side of it. And then, they're going to make the next big Mayan movie. And so I collaborated with my dad actually on this, which was so cool. My dad and I, had this bonding experience working on the movie. He'd never been in a movie before, so he threw him in, put him in a fat suit. But anyway, so for the other part of it, there's Latin America, there's Enchanted Jade, and he knows about all of that because he's a gemologist. He works with gemstones, mostly in Latin America. And so we combined the two worlds together, which was really fun because I felt like as we were putting the script together, there's like enough stuff that's grounded in realism that if anybody's a gemologist or anybody's like an actor, like whatever, people will find like really true like tidbits that they can connect with. But so we started developing the script. So my story, my dad's story, and then putting together the cast and then getting the actors to, like I was saying, like, because I knew I wanted these specific people. So like figuring out like what was fun for them to do.
Well, when was this filmed?
Oh my gosh, it took us a while to film it. Because, so it's funny because like for independent films, the best and easiest way to make an independent film is to take 3 actors, put them in a room, and there's a problem. And they've got to do conflict resolution, kill one, work it out, like whatever. So for us on this, of course, I was like, it takes place in Hollywood. It takes place in Latin America. Like, I need this huge ensemble cast. Like, so for the movie, we filmed in Mexico, we filmed in Texas, we filmed in Guatemala, we filmed in Arizona, and we filmed in California. So we had all these different locations to go to. And then on top of that, there were certain things that I needed for those locations. So like for Arizona, we filmed in the sand dunes in Yuma. Well, a lot of people do off-roading there, which is so awesome. It's gorgeous. Like the sand dunes go on forever. But we didn't want that in the movie. I needed the sand dunes to be pristine. So I needed to film the sand dunes in the hottest month. So no one would be out there and no one would be riding ATVs, so we had to wait for that time period. And boy, oh boy, that was an experience. It was like 110. The equipment was overheating. People were passing out. We had to have coolers and like ice blankets, but with plastic to like put over the equipment to try to cool it down. It was an experience. So, we had to schedule around that. The working actors, a lot of them, are on big budget movies and TV shows and stuff. So not everybody was available at the same time, so I had to schedule around them. So to like do an independent film of this scope, it took a while. It took a while because it had to, yeah, it was all these different little sections, that we scheduled out.
Was this filmed before the pandemic started?
Yeah, yeah. We filmed before the pandemic started. Yeah. Yeah, so for the movie, the plan with it originally was, so it's on Amazon, which is great. I'm like so excited because streaming, is in everybody's house now, and it's cool to be connected with audiences that way. You're available, it's there for them. The plan with it originally is we were going to do a theatrical distribution through Mexico, and so it was going to go in over 3,000 theaters in Mexico first, and because there's a lot of Spanish in the movie, a lot of Latin American flavor, and then we were going to bring it up to the theaters in the United States. But it became an interesting thing because right when we were going to release it was at the beginning of the pandemic.
Gotcha.
And so, yeah, and so it was like one of those things where like, well, do we wait and hold on to the movie for like when the theaters open back up? Or what do we do? How long till theaters open back up and people feel comfortable getting in there and like, so we were like waiting. And then I talked to some friends who were at studios and they were like, well, we're holding on to our movies too. And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, yeah, our $50 million movie, our $100 million, like we're waiting for theaters to open back up. And I was like, okay. And they're like, yeah, so, your independent film is going to be competing with our $100 million movie, for space at the theater for probably, we've got enough content now, probably for like the next 2 years. And I was like, oh, well. And then I talked to some other people and, everybody's been eating everything up online, with the Netflix, Amazon stuff, like, people have been running through so much content that like, I'm sure you've heard this with like earbuds, like people are like, they're like, oh, like I'm rewatching, Breaking Bad, which is a fabulous show, or like I'm rewatching, this show or that show because there's nothing new. And so, it just became a really good time to release stuff on streaming, especially with Amazon. Amazon's great because people are hungry for new content, for new stuff,
How did you decide on Amazon? Did you pitch it first to everybody else, or it was one of those things where you had like a relationship with Amazon already?
Had a relationship with Amazon. I like Amazon. I think it's a good spot for it. I think that they support their projects a lot, and it's important when you're doing that kind of stuff to, just make sure that you're somewhere that's in a good space with it. So yeah, I like them. They're a great platform. They also, they released some big projects this year. They released the Borat movie, and so
Coming to America was another one.
Yeah. I mean, and Amazon's taken over, right?
Right. It's either them or Netflix.
TikTok, right?
Yeah.
They've got what was it? There was something that just came through. Someone sent me today. I think Amazon just bought MGM for $9 billion.
I was reading about it for a few days now. Is it final? Did it get finalized?
I think it's finalized. There might still be something on it, but I think that I think
insane.
It's there.
Insane.
Now they didn't buy Hollywood.CON for $9 billion, but
yeah. we wouldn't be here talking right now if they bought it for $9 billion.
I'm still working on the deal,
Yeah.
These numbers on it. And after people watch your show and you promote it, right? I can go back on my deal and be like, give me some back end.
That's right.
$9 billion.
For the movie, I also noticed that your character's name is Mika. Also, what made you like stay with that name and you decide to name her something else?
The movie's quirky.
Yeah.
The movie's like one of those things where, so I have this big thing with independent film. I think that independent film has a different spirit to it, and it lends you to like be able to take risks, throw in weird stuff, adjust the script to fit in different things. And so that was like one of the quirky things that we added in there. I see sometimes that, not to criticize other filmmakers at all, like it's so hard to make a movie, but I see sometimes people make independent films and they're making like a low budget version of a big film. And I feel like sometimes they like lose like what it is that is the advantage to making an independent film. And that's that you can do quirky stuff and push the envelope. And I feel like that's what audiences who are going to watch independent movies are looking for. They're looking for like, okay, like, no, this isn't a studio film. So like, I want to see something weird, like give me weird. And so, yeah, so calling the character that, made sense. Also, we call my dad in it Ben. My dad's dog in the film is my little dog I had for like 19 years who passed away recently. The movie's dedicated to her. So we just threw stuff, like we had access to a camel for the movie. And so we were like, oh, we got to rewrite this. Like animals got to be in the movie. Yeah. My dad's a pilot. So we're like, okay, we need like an airplane crash scene. We've got the airplanes being hot wired in the movie because he knows how to actually do that. Yeah, so like, just these like things where you're like, all right, like we've got it, add it in there, do some texture.
Any plans for a sequel? Have you thought of an idea?
People have asked about that. And I've thought that like, I actually thought a couple of things. One is there's so many odd characters in this. I feel like you could go with like different groups in different directions because everybody's, in their own world selling stuff out. But then I also thought it would be really fun to take because it's Hollywood.CON and the con stands for con artists. So I thought it'd be really fun to like go to a different area that's not Hollywood and like, what's like another con artist scheme that's happening somewhere else. I think the idea of like comedy where people are trying to like one up each other and sell each other out, like, and like do backdoor deals, like, I don't know, to me, I've always kind of enjoyed that satire. So yeah, I was thinking like, like I was thinking you could do that like, what is that? Like, where's that where people have all their offshore money?
Oh yeah. Like I forgot what it's called, but yeah, it's on an island usually offshore. Yeah, where they're hiding it.
Yeah. So like something like with that, or like, I don't know, somewhere like, like where people were doing more like the Ponzi schemes with like the, like on the East Coast, like, like
or the stock market.
yeah, like the stock market, do a con one there.
That's awesome.
Or I don't know. There's so many different, or like people do con stuff with like charities, which I guess maybe that one might be sad to watch though.
Right, yeah, because a lot of people fall for that too. Or you can do like those ones where what's those phone calls that you get for your credit card or your like Apple is hacked or something. They want you to go buy a gift card to pay.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you could go further into like the actor stuff. It was funny. They have, there's a big business where people want to do, there's a little girl that I know, that's my bud, who like called me and she was like, they want me to pay, $3,000 to do my headshots and get me on an audition, like, and then I got to pay $75 a week for the next 2 years. And I was like,
no. There you go. Yeah. So for one more time, tell the listeners and the viewers where they can find the movie and how can they find you on social media. So the latest movie is Hollywood.CON. It's really fun. It's goofy. You'll have a good time. Nothing political, nothing religious, no sex, no violence, just quirky characters. Hollywood.CON. It's on Amazon. And then for me, find me. I'm on all social media platforms just under my name, which is Mika Boorem, Mika Boorem. Mika, this is great. Thank you for coming on the show. Thank you so much. Thanks. Yeah.